So today I'm going to be reacting to this video. It's called USA versus Australia, the top 5 cultural differences. As always, really interested to know the differences, what these people experience between the USA and Australia. I love to see these culture shocks that people have. But let's check this out. We can see these people's experience.
Yep, flushes the other way.
I mean, even when I was growing up in the UK, we heard about that. Australia, toilets, flush the other way.
Welcome back to another video.
The things you learn when you're young.
We're continuing our Australia series. Our last video was about
Australian slang words, or just Aussie terms that we didn't know.
Yeah, it's Australian slang. So now we thought it would be a good time to talk about the cultural differences from Australia and our life back in the US.
We decided to put this video together based on a request from Maurice W. So we asked for any video suggestions and we want you to know we're listening. So thank you, Maurice, for the suggestion for this video.
So as you saw in the intro, indeed the toilet does flush the opposite way in Australia compared to the US. But let's get into some serious points here. So I think what we're going to start out with is talking about work differences. So what work has been like here in our 6-month contracts compared to back home, our careers in the US. So I started working in Australia in November of last year. So it was around the holiday time, and yeah, it was pretty low-key, pretty laid back. People were still obviously focused on projects, but at a bit slower of a pace, and then things definitely picked up come January. So I think that was pretty different. Back in the US, it's go, go, go all the time, even though it does slow down a little bit in the holidays. It was a nice relaxed pace here in Australia.
And I started my role in October of last year. Unfortunately, mine's come to an end, but when I was there, it was the first job in my professional life that I got in at 9 and left at 5, and that was encouraged. So that was really nice and different. And I would just say that the workplace culture in general is a lot more relaxed and casual, just in the way that people dress and the way that people carry themselves and talk. It's much less buttoned up and professional. I think in the US there's kind of a bit more of a professional persona, and here it just really seemed like people were kind of themselves. So honestly, it took me by surprise at first, but it was kind of nice once you got used to it.
Yeah, something you can get used to.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't know if just because we were doing working holiday visas and not our long-term careers back home, but back home, you know, work was usually always on the mind. We were stressed after work coming home. Oh, I had such a rough day. But here, once you get home from work, we honestly never really thought about it until we were back the next day at 9. So I think that says a lot about our experience working here.
I think priorities are different here. It just seems like there's much more of that work-life balance that Americans strive so hard to reach.
Yeah.
It just comes naturally here. It's much more accepted. It's great.
And I guess another...
Tell me if that's truly reflective of the situation, even for Australians. I know that people coming from the US and maybe other countries can go into this, and having that work-life balance can be like a stark difference from where they're from. But is that really reflective of the true situation, even for like Australians? Do you have that work-life balance? Do you always finish on time, like 5 p.m. or whatever your contracted hours are? Living in Malaysia, like it's just expected people work like 2 hours, 3 hours after their contracted hours without pay, which is not something I agree with or something I'm really willing to do. But it really attracts me to Australia, to have that work-life balance and people just having being treated like human beings and being able to have a life. It makes such a difference, and that's obviously why the quality of life in Australia is so high. Tell me if that's the way it is really, or does it vary between industries and jobs?
The big difference from the US where we lived on the East Coast and Australia is the weather. So not too many rainy days. We have not seen snow yet since we've been in Australia, and it's just been really nice. And
We don't miss it, not at all. I mean, there were bushfires, so that was this, I don't know, people had never seen it in their whole lives, and of course we got here at that time, so that was an outlier, but mostly it's just been not too humid, sunny.
Yeah, and I'm loving the weather right now. We're in, May, almost May, April, mid-April. It's cool, it's like fall back at home.
Yeah.
Really enjoy it.
The weather's great.
I think everybody loves
great.
Australian weather.
Don't miss the cold.
What city has the best weather in your opinion
cold
in
for
Australia?
us is like 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
We're
so
babies.
Yeah.
We've had an eternal summer for a year. the way to do it.
That sounds good.
Kind of going along with the workplace differences, just the entire attitude towards holidays and vacations is a lot different here. So I know schools get a lot more school breaks during the year. Their schedule's a little bit confusing to us, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not like one big summer. You
No.
get a lot of frequent breaks, which
Yeah.
is what they're used to.
Yeah, and it's completely standard and normal to get 4 weeks vacation time. Standard, entry level,
Wow.
for the whole year.
Here in
I think
Malaysia,
I
it's
got
2
a lot of
weeks.
comments about how do you make 2 weeks of vacation a year work? How can they do that? How is that possible?
Must be the same as the US then.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to go back now, I think, after seeing what other people have here. And that doesn't even include Christmas break sometimes.
Yeah.
So companies shut down for 2 weeks and you still get, so you can get 6 weeks of vacation a year, feasibly.
Not too bad. Also, this isn't an
It's
ad
amazing.
to move to Australia, but we're just saying there's some nice differences.
There's some nice differences.
And another big difference.
I mean, that in itself, I mean, the whole work culture in Australia just sounds perfect. And for me, it really would encourage people to have a better work ethic and be treated like normal human beings and want to give everything for their companies. Because they're getting like such good benefits. Like, especially, I come from UK, they get like probably similar to Australia, like get 4 weeks or so annual leave, and it's great. Here in Malaysia, it's completely the opposite. So people coming from like places like US or Malaysia, Asia, I'm sure they would just absolutely fall in love with those annual leave. Is that something people take for granted in Australia, or do you really make use of those holidays?
Difference here in Australia are the sports. So when we got here, we sort of created a list of all the different sports we wanted to go watch while we were here. Unfortunately, a lot of the seasons ended up getting suspended, so we couldn't see rugby league or Australian rules football. So those were two big ones we wanted to see. We did go see some Australian soccer, and we also went to see a cricket match.
For 20 minutes
Which
before
was-
it got rained out.
But we went to the cricket ground.
We went. It counts.
In Sydney, and it was a lot of fun. We had our bucket hats and figured out
never
the
seen
rules
those
for the
hats
most
before.
part. So, good learning experience.
There's a definite difference in understanding between the rules of sports. So I feel like people here don't understand American football and don't really care to.
No, just like the rest of the
Is that
world.
true?
When we lived in England, there's a bit of a following of the NFL, but no one really gives a crap over here in Australia. They have their sports that they
Does
like
anybody
that are
like
popular,
American
so
sports in
why watch
Australia?
something else?
Fair enough.
I mean,
Maybe
Aussie
when we're
rules
back
is so
in
good, but-
Australia, whenever, who knows when, but we'll be able to see some Aussie rules football and some rugby league.
That'd be nice.
So those are some of the major sports. So another big difference is the food here in Australia. As you know, Jenny and I love to eat, and we definitely explored the Aussie food scene here compared to the U.S. So, of course, being in a large cultural hub like Sydney, there are so many good types of food. I think the big differences that we found was obviously having our Vegemite toast for breakfast in the morning.
We've
I've been eating
changed
so
our
much of that
tune. We
recently.
actually love it.
Yeah, but when it comes to lunch, there are so many different options from, I guess, the chains that you have to eat. So back home, you got your KFC, Taco Bell, your burger chains. Here, there's a lot more chains around like Chinese food, Japanese food. There's just so many awesome choices that
Asian
we didn't really
influence.
have back in the U.S. where we lived.
Yeah, that's fair. I would also say the only things we really miss are Mexican food, like really good, authentic Mexican food, and also probably barbecue, like that kind of food.
Yeah.
Ribs.
Do you not have good
and
Mexican food or
pork
barbecue in
sandwiches,
Australia?
That kind of stuff.
Apart from
But
the
the one thing
barbecues
that
in the park.
we've loved here is the authentic Asian food, because where we've grown up and lived in the U.S., we haven't had the options that we have here. I mean, it's amazing.
I never even
Vietnamese,
tried chicken
Thai,
feet when I lived in China,
Japanese,
actually.
Korean. I mean, it's especially
Dim
awesome.
sum.
Yeah, just because after we traveled, we fell in love with Asia and so much of the food. So it's been really cool to be able to have those options here.
Food is a winner in Australia.
We'll talk more about it in another video. And
Yeah,
the
it's the
last big cultural
multicultural
difference
aspect
that we
of
wanted to
Australia.
talk about was, of course, the Australian accent. So Logan and
Has
I
great
lived in
cuisine.
England back in 2016, 17,
Mhm.
17, and we were in the northern part of England, and he was there a year, I was there about half a year, and by the time we left, we felt pretty confident that we could do a mean northern English accent impersonation. Like, we were pretty confident in it. We've been here for about 6 months, and if you haven't checked out our latest video, you can check that out here. But we're terrible. at the Australian accent.
Yeah,
It's so hard.
you really have to practice at your Aussie accent.
And we obviously stand out here with our American accents for sure. We sometimes get
Mm-hmm.
asked if we're from Canada, but yeah, we can't do this accent. I don't think I'll ever be able to do it.
Someone said our American accents are much more nasally compared to the Aussie accent, which is very, very true. So you'll stand out on a train or a bus compared to your local Aussies.
I think the only thing I'm kind of can manage to say is, how you going?
How you going?
Hiya, how you going,
Nah.
mate?
Yeah,
Got to
no,
have the mate on
so
there.
that's all we
Yeah.
That
got.
didn't sound too bad, I thought.
It's difficult.
Yeah, but this is what we're doing to keep ourselves entertained. We hope you enjoyed the video here talking about the cultural differences. It's been really fun living here in Australia. We're sad to have to leave early, but that is the state of the world.
That is life, yeah.
Yeah, man. Tell me what you think about that. Very interesting. I love hearing these people's experience in Australia. Like, it's overwhelmingly positive. I don't really hear many people have bad things to say about Australia, and I think that's fair. When I watch all these other videos about Australia, everything just seems so good and enjoyable. It really encourages a great quality of life. And here, obviously, their work is a big part of that. I mean, it's a big part of everybody's life to have such good benefits like the work-life balance with regards to hours, and to have such good annual leave and vacation time. As an outsider, it just makes me want to go and work there, experience working there. And that's just not even talking about all the other good stuff there. They talked about the cuisine. There was that multicultural cuisine, as well as the Aussie classics as well. Tell me what you think about this video. Thanks.